this computer. So I wanted to share that we have metrics. I shared this on chat earlier, I think last week. So if you click on the first link, you will see how long our child epochs are. And so we have data from pretty much one release ago. So that's why I didn't put it into a chart, because it wouldn't look it would actually look more confusing. But you can see, for example, in that link all the way to the bottom left of that dashboard, there's a table. And so you can see in January, those are counts. And then in February, we have counts. And what those counts are how we look at this usage ping data. Every time we get a usage ping from any instance, it will give us a number for this specific metric. It will either give us null, which is all the way to the right. And do we have looker credentials too? Yes, so what I'll actually do, so actually people can see this. I'll actually screenshot this right now, but if you click on the second link, there is Kushal, there is instructions on how to get access. Thanks for reminding me of that, Kushal. Thank you. So I'll just put a screenshot of what I'm talking through right now in the agenda. So if you look at all the way to the right, there's some null things, but basically I double checked, and Sean, you can correct me if I got this wrong, but for CE instances, they do not send in a number for this particular metric, which is called like deepest epoch tree or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Okay, thank you, Sean. And so we're definitely not getting any data there. For EE instances, we are getting data. And then for E instances that are not ultimate, they shouldn't be using epochs anyways, right? So then that's why you're going to have a bunch of nulls. And I think the reason we don't have is I believe there's a bug, which is I believe we're sending one. So I already logged the bug to get that addressed. I should have linked it here. But that's sort of just breaking down why there's some of that weird data there. In particular, as well, for every single instance, we're not sending in we are sending how many epochs they are, so that's in a different chart, but we're sending in one number, and that's the longest epoch tree they have for that particular instance. So if in your entire instance you have 1.5 length tree, then we're gonna send the number 5, even though maybe all your epochs are 1. So we're just looking at the max, and I thought about this a lot, and it would be crazy to try to send even more data, and we just want to start with this course data. So, but anyways, what you see is in the month of January and February, we got that many usage pings of people sending in, whether they're 1, 2, 3, or 5. And then so sort of not surprisingly, most of them are 1. You have some 2s, and then you barely have any 3s, and you have a 5. And then so nobody's using 5 except GitLab.com, right? So again, that's pretty much expected. And everybody is doing Fibonacci like so far. Exactly. 1, 2, 3.
It just means there's no 4.
It is exactly Fibonacci. I didn't even notice that. That's crazy. But yeah, so that's it'll be interesting to keep looking at that particular metric over the next couple of months and so forth. And since we get this data is refreshed every week, so if you actually click on the link now, it's still the same. So it might change over time. So feel free to keep track of that.
So and then again, Victor, the ping is every week. Do you know, is it on a specific day? Do you know what, I guess the question is how often are we pinging?
It's supposed to be every, Sean, you can jump in anytime you want. I think it's Sunday evenings. There's some random algorithm, but it's Sunday-ish is my understanding.
Usage ping sends at a random time on a Sunday. Each instance sets up its own time that it's going to send it.
Okay, so Monday, if I were to look at this on Monday, I could expect it to see refreshed. Okay, cool.
Yes, we do occasionally see instances that send them on a Tuesday or whatever, and I just always assume that was like their clock's wrong or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, we have plenty of really dirty data. And then also, this data specifically is coming from post-ETL jobs of everything. So I think that's daily, but I'd have to check. So if you look at all the way at the source data, for sure, it's every Sunday, like Sean said, you should see a bump. But these dashboards, I would have to go double check and see when they're being refreshed, because they're being fed from at least one additional stage of data transformation. So I'm just going to talk a bit about Plan in general.
Before you do, Victor,
sure,
I have to say, I stumbled on this earlier today I was looking for something else in Looker, and I found this. I love it that it's in your agenda. This is absolutely beautiful and brilliant. Thank you for doing it. Hopefully your peers and everybody else kind of follows along. And I'm already thinking about the counts of instance by features is just awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. My comment is we're all struggling to get there as an organization. When I say that, I mean in reference to data efforts. So we're all making sporadic strides.
But this is a great model, though. This is a great step in the right direction. So
definitely. And what's interesting for this, I'll add some more color here, is when we've done usage ping, like the word literally is usage, and all we've done since like maybe 3 years ago already, when we started introducing them, maybe like 3.5 years ago, we've always just counted objects in the database. And in the past year or so, we've finally realized we need to do something a little bit better. We've toyed with, are we going to snapshot the instance? Are we going to do like diffs and stuff like that? And all those are still, being considered. I think there's some fundamental questions. There's a problem, like how much data do you send? Is it going to work? Is it going to be technically possible? And so just counting objects counts. At first I thought that didn't seem really smart, but and now I think it makes sense, because it's something to start with. It's really coarse, but we got to start somewhere, and we have that. And so what's interesting in the past year is we've started to have data to do marking stuff as active, or no, that's from the data. Let me take that back. So the data team has massaged that and said, like, if you have at least one usage of this, then that's active. So that's just another way to slice it. But we do have additional usage ping for the fact that somebody is using a particular integration, for example, and counting that. So that's a different way to count in addition to objects. And then this latest one that I'm sort of proud of, because it's different, right, is like, how do you measure like this length of tree, right? And so we thought a lot, we didn't think a lot about it, and we just took a stab in the dark and like, just send this like max number. And like you could think of like, amazing, we can send all the numbers, you can send every single number, you can calculate like a percentile, and then have the instance send a percentile. And I thought that was like too crazy. So that's what we're doing here. Right
now. So there's two things I love about this.
Please keep going, John. I have to jump for 3 minutes. Please keep going.
Well, now you're not going to hear what I love about it, but whatever. The things I love about this, just so we can all see it, because when I saw this, the instances using Epics tells us about people who've adopted and are using Premium. Instances using Jira integration, we're anticipating, a campaign where we look at how do we compete head-to-head with Jira. We're actively looking at that. And so that data is incredibly useful. Service desk, this is just so helpful. And frankly, I think the instances using assignee lists and milestone lists is something that Victor and I need to blog about or write about, because nobody's doing it. So I don't know, this is awesome. And I'll be taking more time with Victor on this offline, but I just wanted to, since it came up on this meeting, I don't want to hijack it with this love fest on this board, but this is awesome.
Yeah, as Victor missed most of that praise, the rest of us on the call will just take it on his behalf. It's fine.
No, collectively, everyone on this team has enabled this. It's just this front end view of it. But Victor, I think we need to blog about.
I caught that part. Something about blogging about this.
we need to publish it, because there's only 100 instances or 120 or 130 instances using assignee lists and milestone lists. They don't know about it.
Yep.
The usage of Service Desk is interesting. I've talked about that. Jira integration, fascinating data. This is fantastic. So I fell out of my chair when I saw it this morning and immediately asked for access to become an explorer and looker so I can start to build some more stuff.
That's awesome, John. And if you ask, you can become a developer too. And so another thing that I found helpful here is I've been telling the other product managers that you don't have to wait for the date, because the data team at GitLab right now, just especially for new folks who are joining, just for information, I think the plan is to get more, not more, just have an embedded product data person per whatever, like whether it's per group or per stage. Like we keep changing this taxonomy, but anyways, suffice it to say, like data folks are not product focused right now. And I think they report to even like finance right now, technically. So folks like Taylor, who's been here for a long time, Emily, and all that team, they report to finance, but they've set up this amazing infrastructure that product gets to play with. So one of the things that I found really useful is that Looker is pretty easy to learn. And so when the planned development team is able to get this usage ping into our database, it takes essentially just 2 merge requests to have it show up on Looker. One of them is to update the ETL jobs, and then one of them is to update the Looker ML files. And that's pretty easy to learn because there's examples already. And if you ask the data team to do it, it might take a little while for them to do it because they're doing finance work as appropriate. But they'll always review your code because everybody can contribute. So I found a lot of success there. So if anybody is interested ever and to do that, feel free to just click on some of those MRs and learn. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about plan. So I'm linking also to this merge request as well, which has a strategy. So I'm going to put that at the bottom of that big paragraph right here. And that's about strategy. So, so what I'll do is talk about really quickly product categories, prioritization, and strategy. So the plan area, that's a neutral word, of GitLab is a stage in the DevOps lifecycle as GitLab defines it, and we have many stages, and plan is one of them. And we've done a lot of iterations in the past month or two to hammer out what the product categories are. And the reason we're doing that is not just for organization's sake. It's not just for all those are important, but there's additional reasons. So from the internal reason, or from the organizing company reason, it helps us grow the organization because we have plans for additional headcount. We have to tell like our investors and people who pay the checks, like, we plan to have this additional headcount to do this job, and so on and so forth. So it aids in that. It aids in hiring, to tell people specifically, like when we're hiring for engineers, product managers, product marketers, whoever, that this is a specific area we're looking to grow, and so on and so forth. So being a transparent company is actually pretty easy because you just do this once, and then you don't have to really consider the ramifications almost, or I'll write something and then I'll just like ping John and say like, oh, can you please have like a review of this, like that I didn't royally screw up something from a product marketing perspective. And most of the time, at most, he needs to tweak a little bit, something small. And so that's just a sidebar note about, us being transparent. We just write something down that's true and factual, and then, the communication just outgrows from it. And so we have 3 product categories, and those are the areas that we want to move forward in. And then, so for example, we have a very ambitious maturity model, something that the product leadership has been working very hard on iterating. So I'll link to that again here at the top of the agenda, as you can see there. And so these are just really ambitious goals. So if you look at that table, you can see those are telling you in those particular categories, we want to be in those places by those timelines. And then so you see that we have minimal, viable, complete, and lovable, and we have definitions of those at the top. So these are, I think, supposed to be tangible to the point that it's, there's a use case of this thing, but it's, but obviously it's not to the detailed feature level, for example. And in particular, these are very ambitious goals that take into account of future growth, right? We have a future growth of headcount plan for 2019, and this is accounting for that. So if we were to do nothing, this would be almost impossible. If we were to meet our hiring goals on 100%, we would barely scrape by and barely achieve these goals. So that's like the level of ambition So if some of these things seem like ridiculous right now, like we'll never like we barely even like looked at these things yet. That's purposeful. And in particular, many of the folks on this call, myself included, we might not even be looking at some of these in detail, right? Probably John will, but because the product and engineering teams will probably grow a little bit faster than, say, product marketing in 2019, and then so you might be, as an engineer or engineering manager or a product manager, you might be focused on a specific category before the year is out. So we're a fast growing company. That also means we're quickly changing in a lot of our things internally. So do look out for that. And then as Eric Johnson always says, like, it's a good problem to have, that we're constantly changing. So that's how I look at it. And then so jumping back to product categories, right now we have 3. We have team planning, enterprise planning, and certify. Team planning, enterprise planning are really our core priority right now. And so team planning is really what a lot of customers are just saying, like basic project management, like you're running a product development team, a scrum team, a team that executes sprints in every 2 weeks or a month or even 1 week, or maybe using Kanban and you don't even have sprints. And the enterprise planning is really agile portfolio management, going through the future. So that's how we've broken those things out. And so enterprise planning is really focused on, beyond developers, it's going to be the business analysts, the product managers, the engineering managers, the directors, the executive level folks. That's our breadth play, as I call it. And then certify is really wrapping up the rest. And we really haven't made a lot of strides in there, except service desk. We've done one iteration like over a year ago, but we really haven't moved forward there. And so that likely will be moving more quickly once, again, we expand the teams or split up the teams. So with team planning, we have Kanban boards, we have issue boards, and to me, the most difficult part, a salient part of team planning for us as an organization is you're constantly getting bombarded with people inside GitLab saying, I want this feature, I need this feature. Like, why don't you have this feature, Victor? It's ridiculous. Like every other tool has this feature. And then you're going to constantly, if you're new, you've probably like noticed that. If you've been here for a while, then maybe it's like noise to you by now. And maybe you just say like, that's a great idea, talk to Victor. And that's totally fine. And Sean uses that line all the time. And that's perfectly appropriate and good.
No, I don't use that line. I just hear it a lot. Like, this is a basic feature. Why isn't it there?
Yeah, and so I the approach, when I just like a side note, whenever you hear that as a member of the plan team, I see people slacking our plan channel all the time, asking about things, and I love when you folks respond right away and give context. And thank you for that. That's super helpful. And then I love it when you guys say like, I agree, this is a great idea. Victor will have more context on when it's going to be shipped and stuff like that. So, you can send them a link to the roadmap, but ultimately, I'm responsible for scheduling things, and I gladly take the brunt of the complaints and the negative, emotions therein, if it's, it's going to be done in late 2019, something like that. So that to me, that's the hardest thing about team planning for us, from a like operational execution perspective. The open risk is that, from a feature perspective, is the past is waterfall, the present is agile sprints, the future is Kanban. That's how I look at it. Like, you have less and less structure going forward, and then the future is about reacting or being proactive to the market. And when I say market, I mean like, the market as a whole, and looking at trends, but even just like a single customer feedback or a bug that you just realized and you fix it right away. And then there's an automated, there's a CI/CD job, and then it's released to the public. So that type of workflow, that is obviously the future, right? And so when as a product team and developing features in the plan area, we have plenty of people that say like, oh, I need to, do some waterfall-y type thing, or I even need to like ramp up, make sprints better, and for these reasons, and so on and so forth. So as a team, and if you click on strategy later, you'll see that we have to be really careful in picking the features that we develop and supporting the customers in the right way, so that we push them toward the future, but we don't leave them behind, and then we have to strike that balance. So team planning, I think that's the hardest that's the risk there. Enterprise planning is definitely the future, and it's less risky in the sense that we have nothing, right? Like we don't have any basis for it, and so we barely have any customers too, so they can't, say I need XYZ. So we're almost able to be a little bit more strategic and support the customers we want to, right? Of course, we'll take any customer we can get, but for example, we've partnered with a bunch of strategic. Not really when I say partner, I don't mean like there's no official relationship. I just mean more generally how we partner with all customers at GitLab. We take calls with them. We learn their needs. They raise issues and so on and so forth. And so we're really focused on the future and building the future of agile portfolio management. And we're less held back by legacy use cases, legacy existing features inside the product, and we can focus on the future. And so I already started pinging folks, and so I thought portfolio capacity planning is next, and so you can click that link and see what all that is about. But basically I want to get a good snapshot of what is beyond epics and roadmaps, right? So we have this work breakdown structure. Obviously it's going to take a long time for us to get it to a really good usable place, but what is the next thing beyond that? Is it going to be like, are we going to be able to allow accountants to log into GitLab and put dollars and cents? Or if you are in North America, or pounds and pence, I guess. But what's the next thing? Is it going to be financial management? Is it going to be putting like ROIs? Is it going to be quantifying risk? Is it going to be putting a lot of like red, green, and orange inside things? And so it's not 100% clear to me what that is. So that thread talks about what is the next big area. And so I referenced a discussion I had maybe like half a year ago, asking, are we supposed to be working on work breakdown structure? And the clear answer was yes, we need to work on work breakdown structure. So in my mind, we've done that. I mean, again, that's a big word to say. I mean, we've done it to the sense that we've released it and we know what to do next. But excuse me, from a high level, it's not clear what's next. So that's enterprise. That's agile portfolio planning. Excuse me. So value stream management is also a big thing there. Sometimes it's weird because people ask, why is that in enterprise planning? Isn't that across all of GitLab? And the way I see it is that we're really strategic inside plan. So in the future, it might actually move to a different stage. It's not clear, but right now, I think it makes sense how we planned it. What I'd like to tell people is that we've done psychoanalytics 2 years ago. And so we're ahead of the market and the industry and how companies think about these things. We already knew that you need to focus on end-to-end cycle time. You need to have visibility in all your stages. You need to understand how each stage progresses. And we knew about these things because that was our play, right? That is our play. We're doing everything together. So if you're another company and you do only one stage, you try to shimmy in the other stages, or you try to make the other stages sort of match your stage, whether you're like a CI/CD tool or a project management tool, or you like emphasize integrations and then you try to suck in their data. So we realized that it's important almost not by accident, but like we're cheating, right? Because if we believe in the whole thing, then of course we believe in individual stages. I don't think what we realized was that it's important for customization. For enterprises, customization is important. I think maybe we over-indexed on the, not doing configuration, and it has to be convention, and here are the 5 stages that we present to you. So I think we over-indexed on that and didn't think about customization enough. So unfortunately, we're behind from that aspect, or we're not behind, but if we don't execute in 2019 on value stream management, then we will be behind. But we have the benefit of having, I would say, done psychoanalytics and got all that customer feedback and learning. And then now we can move forward. And why plan is relevant is because, we have issue boards, we have issues. A lot of that makes sense within plan anyways. But we have to figure out how that integrates with merge requests, with security, with CI/CD, and so on and so forth. So that's why value stream management is critical for GitLab, I think in 2019. And then service desk, quality management, requirements management, those are things that just have been, for a variety of reasons, have been put into the plan stage, and then that they're additional growth categories. I think they make sense because they are just crazy ideas outside of what is obvious that the market needs and what is obvious that GitLab would be good at. And so the way I see it is that service desk is the least risky because, it's a clear feature set and we can do it. And then we can leverage our own users to test it and use it. Quality management, similar, because we have a team to test it, or we have a quality team. Requirements managers is the highest risk category, I think, in all of Plan. We have no users, and if we implement requirements management, we have to figure out how GitLabbers will use it. It's not clear to me how GitLabbers would use requirements management. Some of you might even know what requirements management is because that's such an old concept. Some in the waterfall sort of realm. Why it's relevant is that we have a lot of prospects and customers in certain industries where they're building not just software, maybe they're building hardware, maybe they're building bridges. And then there's a software component involved because all companies of the future are going to build software. So all the customers I've talked to that need requirements management, they're not saying I only do requirements management and waterfall and I don't do any type of agile scrum thing. It's always they want both. So to me, that's a good sign that we're not serving the customers of the past. We are serving customers of the future, but there is this market, there's this particular industry where they need certain requirements, more rigorous requirements management, because if you're building a bridge or a spaceship and you make a decision to use this material, you cannot change that decision later on. Or if you do decide to change that decision, then you have to track that and manage that very carefully. So that's why I think it's risky, because we have to figure out what that trade-off is, or not trade-off, but how does that come together? Are we really serving these companies of the future, and how do we do it properly? And is it a market to go after? But in any case, certified features are lower in priority, but they are bets that per the maturity model we will make in 2019. And that's pretty much what I was saying in prioritization and timeline. I think I've spoken for 50 minutes plus, so I will stop talking. And does anybody have any questions, comments on any of these topics?
I added one to the doc, and I just realized I completely missed whether you answered it just then.
I didn't. Let's jump to your comments, Sean.
Okay, so yeah, that's fine then. I'll watch the recording back to find the answer.
Right. No, I was saying that, Sean, we didn't cover your points. I'm reading your points.
Right. Yeah. So my question was just so you mentioned that custom fields and workflow stages belong to value stream management. So my question was, I thought value stream management was about sort of getting that data out of stuff. So is that right? First of all, is value stream management, like you said sort of earlier, about the thing that isn't necessarily just planned, but about getting the data on how you get those cycle times down? Is that right, first of all?
Good question. And for the if you don't mind, Sean, I'll step back and before answering your question, for the benefit of the audience and just this video, because I'm going to publish it obviously. And so I'm going to click on value stream management, and I'm going to should I quit Slack? Oh, it doesn't matter. I won't quit it. And then I'll share my screen. And then, so value. What is value stream management? So the concept with value stream management is that we want something like this ultimately. So this is a really rough draft, right? But the idea is that we believe, I believe at least, that the way to do agile DevOps in the future of creating software for big enterprises is shipping as fast as you can. That's pretty much the answer in a nutshell. Obviously, there's more nuance to that. And the background is, I'm not pulling that out of my behind, like with no data or anything. It's been proven by Silicon Valley style tech giants that this is the way to the future. And where we're positioned as an organization, as GitLab, is that we need to go after the market for the rest of the world that will make this transformation, right? So all the big Silicon Valley tech giants, they've figured this out, this science, that this is how you develop software, not develop software, how you develop products in a fast, iterative way and win the market and the business. If you think about it, that's actually a very small market for us because there's like a handful of those companies, right? But the market we're going after is all these medium and large enterprises now, and that they are figuring out how to do this transformation in the future. And we have to go after that market because we're in that business. And so that's where our growth is. And so that's why I said, like, these are the businesses of the future. We have to go after them one by one. And we have to hold their hand along the way, and we'll build the product and so on and so forth. And the theory or the thinking here is that, any sort of product development 101 is you need to get iterations out as quickly as possible, right? If you get iterations out as quickly as possible, then you get customer feedback. When I say customer feedback, that's like technical feedback, something broke, and you can fix it right away. Or market feedback, and you can pivot, blah, blah, blah. And so getting your software out as quickly as possible is the key. And then that also demands small iterations because you need small iterations to make sure things go quickly. And if things are small and iterations are small, it means your metric is always going to be speed. Your metric doesn't have to be in the theory of VSM, at least. You don't have to worry about, did my conversions go up by 50%? Did I just tank my conversions? Are there more signups now? Is more people using this particular set of features instead of that particular set of features? All those metrics are relevant, but in the VSM world, it almost doesn't matter because the VSM purposely abstracts away those things. And from a building a tool perspective like GitLab, it's also a good thing because we want less things to track, right? For example, the monitoring group is starting to build out those metrics like memory increases and so on and so forth. So those things are important, and we'll get to those. But from a VSM perspective, what is one metric that we can use for all teams in all industries that is comparable for you internally in your organization, across teams, and even comparing across companies within your industry, and even comparing across industries? And that number is time, and specifically end-to-end cycle time. So how long does it take from your software, from your idea to production? So if you've been at GitLab for a while, that used to be like our mantra, idea to production. So that's why I keep saying we knew about this 2 years ago. We just haven't executed in the way that the market needs. And so we just need this number. And so value stream mapping, the end goal is to reduce this number as small as possible. And what value stream mapping provides you is how do you reduce that number? And the way to do it is to map your value stream into specific stages of development, review, UAT, production check, business sign off, whatever. And then say my 15.4 days took X amount of days in between, and therefore I need to optimize this particular stage because it's way too long for no apparent good reason, or we need to hire more people to do this. We need to use more technology to address it. So value stream management in a nutshell is 2 points: recognizing that end-to-end cycle time needs to be reduced, and that is the metric that everybody should care about, and we should push people to care about it. And number 2, providing the framework of those stages so that it's visible which stage is the worst, and allowing you to optimize and improve that stage. So that's essentially what value stream management is. It's from a conceptual point, it's really simple. And then back to Sean's point, we need workflow stages as an implementation design to do this, right? So right now we don't have these customized stages inside GitLab. We have something called issues, we have merge requests. And so you can say, issue is planning, merge request is coding. And then we have like CI/CD, and then we have review apps. So we sort of have those stages, but not really. So our current designs, and please participate on issues, is to allow teams to create those customized stages some way, and then link them all together, surface the metrics again, which is going to be time, and then show that, this particular stage you took 10.1 days, and then additional granularity that we want to produce is that of those 10.1 days, was it actually useful time, or were you just sitting on your behind and doing something else, and then it was a bottleneck? So helping customers optimize that is the name of the game for value stream management, and that's why workflow stages in particular supports that is important. And so that's why I have put custom workflow per group as part of the value stream mapping category, but custom fields I have not, and that's separate. And if I put that somewhere or said that, that's incorrect. So does that answer your question, Sean? Long answer, of course.
Yeah, so I think, because I was wondering, it seems like workflow stages isn't inherently value stream management. It's just that we need workflow stages to do value stream management.
Exactly. And it's the reason I put in that product category is, more for organization's sake, but it's like the vision is there. Or another way to think about it is we're building all these features up one by one, but what's really the coherent story from a product perspective, or from a customer making their business more awesome perspective, right? Ultimately, we're not shipping features. Ultimately, we want to get customers, we want to improve, we want to have our customers make more money, right? For-profit customers, at least.
My other question is, so we've got these, I can't even remember what they're called. So the bullet points that say team planning, enterprise planning, and certify, I don't remember whether those are categories or stages or...
Those are groups. Those are groups. They're very confusing. Technically, they're groups now, but...
Right.
That's what
so at some point, we're going to have more than one product manager working on plan stuff, right? And this is probably how we'll divide the work. Am I right in saying that?
That's the idea, yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
And that might also apply to engineering teams as well. But one thing that occurred to me looking at this is that, is enterprise planning all starter and above stuff? Because
what above? Sorry, I missed that.
Starter and above. So there's plenty of core stuff in team planning, but enterprise planning, based on the name as well, it seems like there's if there's a team working on that, they're pretty much going to be working on the proprietary stuff rather than doing any work.
I didn't consider that, and I don't think that should be a consideration. But if there's a problem you see inherently with that, I think it's a valid concern.
I don't think we should have taken it into consideration for splitting up our product categories. It's just
right. Yeah, exactly. But I think it's are you concerned that certain teams will be doing more things that go into a certain tier, and then from a contributing to open source perspective, that there's a
but it's only a potential concern, because I was talking to someone earlier about working on open source software, and then looking at these, I was like, well, is anything in the second two groups going to be in the core version, or is that mostly going to be the team planning group?
That's a great point. I would say, for example, certified right now, I don't see, certified, because they're so separate, of course we would put them in a higher tier, because we believe that they belong in those higher tiers, and then we can get value from them. But what's interesting is the community member just said, I want to work on quality management. I haven't seen an MR from them yet, but they said explicitly that I need this to be in CE, and I'm like, okay, great, that's going to be in CE. So if you look at our stewardship pages and all those things, it's unlikely we would reject that. So that's sort of an interesting counterexample. For enterprise planning and team planning, I could see a lot of core things there anyways. For enterprise planning right now, we have epics and actually, I take that back. Enterprise planning, I can see a lot of that would be, even premium plus. I don't see any of those features being lower anytime.
Yeah, just to be clear,
if we take epics down, it would be in premium. Go ahead.
Yeah, so just, it's not a big concern for me right now. It was just something I was thinking about. And then I was thinking about the other backend teams specifically that we have. So because every front-end team is working on open source code, because our front-end is open source, just because that's easier to license and easier to manage.
Right.
but for instance, the Geo team are pretty much only working on proprietary stuff because Geo is a
Okay.
feature that's in
So
Starter.
this isn't a new problem, but
Yeah, no, exactly. And like the Gitaly team, like Gitaly doesn't have editions, so they're basically only working on open source stuff. Like it's not a huge deal. It's just
right.
an interesting thing.
No, it's an interesting observation. I didn't think about it. Thank you. Like, I mean, obviously, you're an engineering manager, so obviously you would think about these things more than I would. But like, yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, I think it is relevant because when we hire, right, when we tell people like we're hiring for these roles and you're coming to work for GitLab and you get to work on great open source technologies, we like, you know, like I said at the top of this video, like we should be truthful in what we say, and if we're gonna, like you said, in the future we're gonna hire specifically and break out these roles, then I think it's a good point to mention in the interview process, for example.
Yeah, exactly. And just to, you know, people on those teams wouldn't be doing zero open source work anyway, because there's going to be a bunch of stuff that needs to be refactored in both, or you might just pick up an issue that's like, you know, applies to both or whatever. So yeah, we can move on. Like I just, you know, had it on my mind.
No, yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for bringing that up, Sean. So if you click on strategy, that link, you actually see a lot of things I just said are actually written down. And the reason I said all those things is because I wrote this like 2 days ago and it's on my mind. But the summary of the strategy is we have to go for the consumers and customers of the future. We cannot compete with the with our competition now because we're not in a well position to do so. And it's also not a good strategy, because if you compete with the customers now and then you're building the features of today and then your customers go through this digital transformation that I just described, all the features that we have are no longer relevant. So to me, it's a matter of focusing on the future. How do we bring our customers along? How do we mitigate the risk so that we still have you know, even if we were to royally screw up, you know, GitLab will still be around. But, you know, like, how do we retain our usage and customers in the plan area specifically while we get to the future? So that's how I've articulated that strategy. I mean, it's not in the handbook yet officially, you know, subject to review, but that's how I've been thinking about these things, and love to have your feedback if you have any. So if there's no more questions on these topics, I'll stop recording and talk about other things. Questions, comments? Nope.